We've had him on before. He's great. Great with us. Very good coach. Lost his gig in Charlotte. Had some health issues. Returned to the sidelines now with the Orlando Magic. And he's getting ready for the upcoming NBA draft. He's Steve Clifford. He joins us in the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Coach, what'd you think of the finals?
I guess I think kind of what I expected, actually. I thought it would be good for Cleveland to win one game, which obviously they could have in game one. But I just think Golden State, the talent discrepancy was enough, so it was going to be difficult for them to do more than that.
Yeah, I do. The game one thing was really interesting because, and I'm sure the former player, the former assistant, the head coach in you is thinking about all these millions of things that go on, and I just wonder how many coaches out there are nodding their head because JR obviously didn't know time and score, and then no one thought to call a timeout, right? It's like one of those, were there some other learning moments to which you watching are processing and looking at it differently than just, hey, LeBron's awesome, but Golden State's more awesome?
Oh, no, I think you hit it right on the, I would agree with that totally. I mean, think about it, that game, he has 51, and obviously the block charge play was obviously as bigger a play and as the last one. And the tough one in the last play is it was almost difficult, in my opinion, to see if JR was trying to just get some space to shoot a turnaround jumper, or if he just didn't know how much time there was left on the clock. So I think that was a tough one too in terms of calling the timeout. But even with that said, I mean, even if they would have won that game, I would have been surprised if they would have won another one.
There's a sense that LeBron, if he leaves, he's got to stay in the East because it's an easier path than the West. Then I look around and I'm like, wait, Boston got to the Eastern Conference Finals without their two best players. Milwaukee seems to not be crazy far away. Philadelphia is really young, and they're going to have some money to add another piece. Obviously, Toronto can't seem to get over LeBron, but they still are able to beat almost everybody else in the East. How far behind the West do you think the East actually is, especially at the top?
Yeah, not nearly as much as it has been. Like you said, Toronto won 59 games. Philadelphia has two superstars and room for another all-star caliber player. And again, like you said, in Boston is terrific. And then, Milwaukee has, to me, a superstar in Giannis, and then, an all-star caliber player in Chris Middleton. And if Jabari Parker's healthy and returns, another guy, who can score 20 a night. So I think the top of these has become better and better over the last 2 years.
Steve Clifford, head coach of the Orlando Magic, joins us in the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. You were in Orlando the last time Orlando was Kings of the East. How big a rebuild project is this?
Well, you know what? I'm actually in the process, or our staff's in the process of really doing a total study now. As you know, this first month is about getting up to speed on your roster. And, we only won 25 games last year, but, really took two significant injuries with Terrence Ross and Jonathan Isaac both played less than 30 games. And then had some other, health issues where, very good players, Evan Fournier and Nick Vucevic, missed significant periods of time there, and Gordon missed some time. So it was a team that started 12-6. I think that, we have the sixth pick, and hopefully we can, help our depth there. But, there are definitely some things that you can look at and feel good about. So I'll feel more comfortable answering that question in about 3 weeks. But, I do feel good about a lot of the things that I'm seeing on film.
It's interesting because it's really hard to tell. Once you got past, frankly, you're like your team in Charlotte, a lot of those other teams were trying to be bad, right? It was
exactly,
so it's like, are they really bad or are they trying to be bad? Where is I mean, like that's a hard one to answer. But were you guys, was the Magic that bad, or were they trying to be a little bit worse than their actual talent would determine? And I guess the quote is, "Play younger players," right? That's what it's called, playing younger players.
No question. And the one thing I know is they started the season at 12-6, and my point is that's 18 games, so it's a little bit under a quarter of your schedule. That's not like being 4-2 or 5-3. They beat Cleveland twice. They beat San Antonio. They beat some good teams, and that's when they started to take some injuries, which hurts any team. So that's obviously glass half full. But again, if you can play 18 games in this league at 12-6, then there's some good things that were happening.
Your peak with Charlotte was the playoff season, the second playoff run, right? When you guys won 48 games, and you guys added some pieces. Why weren't you able to sustain it to a level to which they were happy with?
Well, the biggest thing that hurt us 2 years ago, coming off the 48-win season, was on that team we had 6 free agents, and they all played well. So, we were able to keep Nick Batum and Marvin Williams.
Right.
We lost Jeremy Lin, Al Jefferson, Troy Daniels, all guys, who were, contributors or important players, rotation guys for that team. I'm sorry, and Courtney Lee. And if you look at it, 2 years ago, our biggest problem was bench play. Our starters were, I think, 10th or 11th in point differential that year. And usually that would allow you to, again, be a playoff team. But, losing those guys, we just really struggled when we went to the bench. This year, which was, really, to me, the most disappointing year that we had there was, I thought this was our best team. We had more depth. We brought in Dwight. We had always been a very good defensive team. The year we won 48, we were 9th in offense, 9th in defense. We were much more balanced. And I thought this year we could be a top 5 defensive team. And I thought we had enough offense so that if we could be 10, 11, 12, we'd have the balance necessary to win. We actually ended up 13th in offense, but we were 16th or 17th defensively. So the thing that had been our calling card for 4 years, was what let us down. And that's the biggest disappointment for me.
It's fascinating. I had a conversation with another Eastern Conference coach just last week. And I said, will it ever come back to the days of which you'll play through a big guy? And he's like, no. Everybody fans like the way they're playing now. It's impossible and inefficient to score in the low post. And so, frankly, the Dwight Howards, or, you look around kind of the East, and there's some of these guys they're players from a foregone era, in that throwing the ball inside just does not make sense analytically, especially to a big guy, and trying to score in the low post. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
No, and I think that actually one of the things that I've seen so far on film here is we have Nikolai Vucevic, who started shooting threes last year, and when you talk about playing through a 5-man now offensively, I think the best teams can do one of two things or both. One is having the ability to play 5 out.
Right.
Al Horford in Boston, where you can play him at 5 and you can be terrific on offense and create space for everybody else to play. And then defensively, you're not getting dominated down low. He can do both. I think that's the first way you want to play. Or you need to have small ball.
Yeah. A roll guy who can defend the rim and just catch and finish, and otherwise and reasonably well switch onto a guard.
Exactly right. So it's to me, it's one of those two things: 5 out or 4 out, 1 in, where you have the chance to play well at both ends of the floor. And that's it. I mean, I think that's the way to go. I mean, a lot of it, if you want to know truthfully, when you look at the post-up game now, and it's one of the places where I think Golden State's not quite as good, is, they had great success when they had Bogut, and then actually with Pachulia, is posting 5-man just to set up cutting options.
Right.
And, that's the other part of it. Like here with Nick, I feel we can do some of that too.
It's fascinating. Okay, so as we look forward, and obviously you can't tell us who you have number one on your board, but how much does that change? There's a lot of talented big guys. How much does that change how you look at big players? Hey, can they play out in the perimeter? Can they shoot? Can they handle? Can they pass? As opposed to how dominant they are scoring in the low post in college.
Oh, I think it's a huge deal. I mean, unless again you're confident that they can be versatile defensively. So, like you're saying, they can be involved in switching, and they can be that dynamic roller. But just to me, a post-up player, again, unless he's terrific defensively. I mean, if you look at the best teams, Boston being a great example, you need two-way players.
Right.
You need positional size, and you need guys that can play well at both ends of the floor. And I would make this argument, again, watching playoff basketball especially, but even to be balanced in the regular season, much is said about perimeter players who can't shoot threes, right?
Right.
The guys that hurt you just as much now are the guys that are pretty good offensive players but are really bad defensively. Like, to me, with all the 5 out and the 4 out, 1 in, where there's so much space to play, the poor defender, like if you're a poor defender, you better be 23, 24, and 9.
All right. So listen, again, I'm giving you hypothetical. There's a guard. There's a guard in the draft that puts up crazy numbers offensively, but based upon what we've seen, not particularly engaged defensively, and might not have the athletic gifts of some people defensively. How cautious of you as a head coach are you, even though those type of numbers and those type of shots may put more people in the stands?
Yeah, I think the determination that you have to make on a guy like that would be, it's again, I think your question is two-pronged a little bit, is because it's a question a lot of times I think is, can he, is he capable and not doing it, or is he not capable, right? That's the first thing. And then the second one is how good offensively is he? Again, I mean, if you're 24 a night or you're, an incredible playmaker or both, you have to find ways to win with that guy. I just think that the guy that scores 14 a night and doesn't defend, those guys are hard to win with now.
No question about it. No question about it. Coach, we wish you nothing but success in Orlando. We'll hope to catch up with you after this NBA draft. Get back to watching all that film and trying to figure out what you have and how to fix it. We appreciate you joining us on Fox Sports Radio.
Thank you, Doug. Anytime, I appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine.